What's up, fellow fantasy-loving friends? Josh here with RSMP Tabletop, and I'm beyond excited because today I have with me...
My name is Jared. I am from the DS crew, and I also do all the thumbnails for the channel. So thanks for having me on, man.
He sure does. Jared, what are we going to be doing today?
So today we're going to be talking about kind of like a 6-month recap of getting into MCP. So, we did the initial video way back when now, and actually my first game of MCP ever was with Josh here. And now I've played probably 20-ish games, including going to a tournament in December. So I'd love to just kind of recap some of that first. So
nice. Before we dive into that real quick, though, I want to talk about some of the things that we're going to change in the channel. So moving forward, on Mondays, we're going to start releasing videos Marvel Mondays. Wednesday is going to be Warhammer Wednesday. I'm not saying we're releasing a video every single week, but if we do release a video on that day, it will be for that game. And that's the other thing too. Last year, the last 6 months, we really tried to get a weekly release. I don't know if we're going to do that going forward this year. We want to really try to cover some games and some things that we really enjoy and that we really like. But it's a big commitment to try to make a video every single week. So I'm not saying that we're not going to, and I'm not saying there aren't going to be some weeks where we do a Monday and a Wednesday video, but just know that there might not be a video every week. But if you guys like, subscribe, comment, we'll certainly try to cover the things that you guys want to see. And we're also going to cover the things that we want to see and we want to play.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about Marvel Crisis Protocol. So we've played now for about 6 months. And what was kind of cool is the first time I got to talk to you, it was more of like you were a Warhammer player that came into a new game system.
Yeah.
Now that you've got 6 months under your belt, I'm going to keep the comparison to Warhammer now because we're going to feature that in the channel. What are some similarities? What are some differences? Just talk about your comparison now with 6 months experience under your belt.
Yeah, so I definitely think that MCP is really great. I think especially for new players. I don't think people getting into the hobby for the first time generally hear Marvel Crisis Protocol as like the first game they should buy. But genuinely, I believe that it is such an easy starting point. Because even for even games that I love like Kill Team, right? They can be kind of crunchy, especially for someone that's never played a war game before. Jumping into, like a Games Workshop game can be pretty intimidating. It's kind of tough to find a place to start. But for MCP, and you've heard me talk about it before, where I think that the core box that comes with the Avengers and then the Cabal, that is probably the best core box I've seen for a miniature game, to be honest with you, because you get a full table of terrain with it, you get all the tokens, you get all the extra measurement tools and all that, and it's such like it's the entire game for 2 people, well, almost enough stuff for 2 people, just in a single box, and it's pretty affordable comparative to other games in the kind of in this ecosystem as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what everybody loves the Marvel characters too. So like, again, if you're looking at, the Warhammer catalog and you're a little bit unsure of, oh, where do I start? Like all these things look cool, but I don't know which ones I can or cannot buy for my army, right? For Marvel, it's just, oh, you could soup things, right? So if you say you like Daredevil, you pick up Daredevil, but then there's also nothing stopping you from putting Thanos on the same team as Daredevil, So it allows for a lot of creativity, and I think it's very hard for like a new person to really make mistakes getting into it, so it's an incredible game. I initially said it was kind of like a beers and pretzel game, which I still think it is that on a surface level, but especially now that I've played like a little bit more competitively and like I went to my first MCP tournament, it definitely has like there's more to chew on, I guess, when once you get like really into it. So yeah, no, it's been fantastic. 6 months in, again, probably played around 20 games. It's been awesome.
Nice. So can you just talk a little bit about some of the things that you really like about the game now that you have some more time, and then maybe some things that you find frustrating or that maybe you'd change?
Sure. Probably the biggest thing, and I think this is the big draw to the game, is the characters. All these characters you've seen before, if you grew up, in the late 90s like I did, you watched the Spider-Man animated cartoons, maybe you grew up with the X-Men animated cartoons, so, and all those characters are present here, so, and I think that's kind of the biggest draw, but also the rule system, it's pretty easy to pick up. All the core rules are free, which I always really appreciate. And again, like any updates to the cards and everything, you can just download them offline, right? So if there's any changes to the game, not only can you just reread the core book and you don't need to worry about sharing it with your friends because you can just download the PDF for it, but if there's any balance changes, you get them right on, if you're using your phone or you're using like a tablet or something to read the rules, they're all right there, and they're all very concise, very plainly worded. And this also goes for the Warhammer side of things as well, but the community for MCP has been extremely welcoming. So I mean, Jin and Eric have been a big part of that. Jin actually TO'd the tournament that I was a part of. It has been fantastic. The only complaint, and this is not just an MCP exclusive problem, this happens with a lot of other games as well. The set, it's like the unique dice and the unique like measurement tools. I again, there's far more games to do this as well, but it's a little bit disheartening that I can't just pull out like a tape measure and be like, okay, this movement is 6 inches. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or, for the weapon ranges. So there's some stuff like that that I might, that I don't love, to be completely honest with you. But again, most of that stuff, it comes with a core box, so it's at least accessible. I don't think I've ever met someone that's like, oh, I picked up these boxes and I don't have the measurement tools. Like I think generally speaking, they're very easy to acquire. There's not some kind of like supply and demand issue with it. It's a minor grievance because again, like they're very easy to pick up, but that's just a little nitpick there.
Yeah. So I think now that I've had some time, I've got 3 games under my belt in the 6 months that we played, but I'm around it a lot. Actually, Eric had asked me, he's like, you must pick up so much like being around the game. And he's not wrong, but like surprisingly, because of how much time I spend like trying to make sure that my camera settings are right, my ISO, f-stop, white balance, shutters, all the things that are important. It's like, I can get lost in that sometimes, but just being around the game and talking to the people, like especially when I'm editing and sitting down, I can pick up on some stuff like that. So even though I haven't played a ton more, I feel like I've learned a lot more about the game. And one of my favorite things about this game right now is kind of like you brought up earlier. We all know the IP, we all know the characters, right? And what I think AMG's done a really good job of is like, there's the monsters now, there's Dracula, like they bring in a lot of characters that like, they're not, I mean, obviously they have all your main, A-list characters, but then they bring in a lot of really other great characters that make the game fun and exciting in a lot of different ways for you to play as well. So I really like that. My only gripe with the game, I guess it's not even fair to have a gripe, but like, so I played Magic the Gathering for a lot of years, and there's games where you either draw too much land and you lose, or you draw not enough land and you lose. And that's not a good feeling. It's like to be taken out of the game on luck like that. Marvel Crisis is a very swingy dice game. Like there's times where you could do all the right things and you're just going to get blown off the table and you lose because the dice failed you. I bring that up as like almost a negative, but at the same time, like if I'm thinking about it thematically, like if you're 2 superheroes, like they're the best of the best, like they're going to do the right thing and swing and they're going to miss because they're also going against another superhero that is also the best, right? So like thematically it makes sense, but I think, and I'm going to ask you next about your tournament experience, but especially when you put the time and effort to really try to learn an affiliation inside and out to where you're going to go to a tournament and to like lose an early round or 2 and kind of be out, like it's not a great feeling. And I wish, not that I wish, but from what I've seen, I think people have mentioned that like in Star Wars Shatterpoint, it's a little bit more even keel. Do you think that Marvel Crisis is more swingy than a game like Kill Team or like 40K?
I think there could be the argument made for that. Kind of conversely to how you're saying that it's swingy and how it feels kind of bad sometimes where you'll just get blown off the board. Like I've played games where, my leader, a lot of it does kind of come down to decision making as well, where, oh, I actually left my leader out in the open and they just got demolished, right? Conversely, I think it also feels really good when you smash someone else, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to exploit this one thing that you did, and I'm going to roll hot, just again, because it's a dice game. A lot of it is luck based, but I do think it comes down to strategy. Obviously there's still a huge strategical edge in MCP that a lot of like the more experienced players have, but I definitely think like at kind of like the lower level where I consider myself to be, it can be pretty swingy, But I think for Kill Team, there's also, because it is a crunchier system, there's more things that you need to worry about, generally speaking. So there's different stratagems, there's different pieces of equipment, as opposed to MCP, where it's kind of like, you pick your 5 cards, you pick your, however many heroes that you're going to bring to a single game, and that's kind of it,
Actually hearing that, I guess it's kind of nice because instead of having to learn the cruncher rules, it's almost like in Marvel, it's like they're mixed into the dice for you almost. So like, like I said, it's a negative, but I also understand it. But again, I think it feels bad at like a higher level when you're trying to like really grind the game and get there. So you did play a tournament. Can you talk a little bit about your experience at your tournament?
Yeah, so it was over at Haven Games and Hobbies, which friend of the channel.
Absolutely, Brian. Your store is phenomenal.
Yeah,
thank
Brian.
you for all the stuff that you do.
Yes, Brian. Thank you. It was nice meeting you. I will say that. First up, like I already said, the community was incredible. Everybody was super kind the entire time. And honestly, even there's still a couple rules that, it's still, even though it's an easier game to play, there's still some rules that, you might need a reminder of, right? And there's a couple times where just like kind of like rules reminders where other people that I was playing against were like, oh, actually, you can do this, and I was like, oh, thank you for that. So everyone was super understanding. It was me, and I think there was at least 2 or 3 other people. It was their first tournament as well. So basically my goal going in, and just to kind of, I set my expectations pretty low. I was like, I just don't want to come in last place. That was my goal. And even if I did, like, the underlying goal was just to have fun, and I definitely succeeded in both of those, thankfully. I think I wound up getting, I believe it was 16 players, and I wound up, I think, in like 11th or 12th place. So, not a stellar record. I went 1-3. So, but I got my one win. I didn't come in last, and I definitely had a great time.
Nice.
So I played into a few really weird matchups as well. So I'd be excited to kind of talk about those as well.
Yeah. Talk.
Yeah. So
what did you play when you went?
Oh yeah. So I played defenders. So straight up defenders. Daredevil is my leader, and then I souped in Blade as well. So I didn't do any Midnight Suns action, but just straight up defenders. And yeah, Shang-Chi and Silver Sable. I know that Eric and Jin did the video on it. They're monsters. All right, and it feels really good when you can get Shang-Chi like online, especially when he gets flipped and he has that huge 10 dice attack. Oh, it feels great. It's awesome. But so my first game, it was my first time playing into this team. I played into Asgard for the first time, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I got destroyed.
Thor and Loki are really hard to overcome.
Yeah, and again, especially like I didn't get gotcha'd or anything like that. Like my opponent was very nice about it and being like, just as an FYI, like Loki has the thing where like if you roll a skull, I think he gets 1 power or does one extra damage. There's something like that. Again, sorry, this was over a month ago at this point. But so he was very open and honest about it. He was like, just as an FYI, like this is going to be a thing that's happening. And yeah, I brought Namor and Chosen of Bast as well for kind of 2 of my, Namor especially being kind of like the bigger heavy hitter that I have. And even Namor could just not stand up to that Loki and Thor combo. It was, and he had Beta Ray Bill as well. So it was a very pure Asgard list, and I just got demolished right away. But thankfully, again, the thing about a game like this is even if your models are getting blown off the board, you can still play for the points. So I was still trying to hold the objective, and even though he was pulling ahead, for points and for kills, it still felt good going off, kind of finishing off that first round. Even though I lost, I still had more points on the board than some other people, so it didn't feel like an entire loss. And that's also exclusive to like how a tournament would be ran as well. So like in like a one-off game, like if me and you were to play right now, it might feel a little bit bad if it's like 4-16, right? But in a tournament setting, it doesn't really matter if you win or lose as much, especially again at the lower level. But if you were able to score a lot of points before the game wraps up, that still counts a lot towards your score at the end of the tournament. After that, I actually played 2 X-Men. One was Uncanny X-Men, and then I played an X-Force game. I actually did win the game against X-Force, which felt really fun. And again, I've also never played it into cable yet either, just because I mostly play with friends and they don't, they're not big X-Men people as much. So it was really cool just to do that. And I just barely eked out a win. I think it was like 17-16 at the end there. So I eked out the win there, which felt great. Then I played into Uncanny X-Men after that, and they souped in Immortal Hulk. And yeah, I made the mistake. Again, Namor is very good, but I definitely overestimated. I was like, Namor can take on a Hulk. Namor cannot take on a Hulk. It was bad. It was bad. So yeah, Namor was off the board by the end of turn 2. It was not great. And then lastly, I actually played Caleb.
Oh, nice.
And he also he demolished me, because that was also, he played a very weird list. I think he was technically playing Thralls. So he had Dracula, he had Thanos, and then I think he had Werewolf by Night. And those were his the 3 models that I was playing into like a 5-character defender team. And I was just getting thrown around. And like those models, especially at that point, were still pretty new, so I didn't play into them yet. So I didn't really know like all the different stuff that they could do. But that combo was insane to play against, because I was just getting thrown around, just getting beat up, and I was like, okay, I'm like, but it was a great learning experience too, So every single time that I played someone, I could feel myself like, if like, let's say if they exploited a mistake that I did, I didn't feel cheated out of anything. It was definitely something where it's like, I misplayed this, but now I know for next time. So I think if you're looking to improve, go to your local game store. See if they have an MCP tournament and join it, because that way, again, even if you're going to lose and you're going to get in the bottom, the bottom half of the bracket of the leaderboard, that's all right. Especially, I mean, everybody's super fun, and you could hopefully learn more about the game if you do so.
Yeah. You had kind of brought up, X-Men was the affiliation that I really wanted to play. And like, I guess this isn't true, right? You can play any affiliation, but it seems to me like X-Men is like, if you're a higher level player, there's a lot of high level things you can do with them. Since I don't have as much time to play a ton of games and stuff like that, I'm kind of like slowing it down a little bit, I guess. But like, the monsters are honestly like RSMP Tabletop's running scared motion pictures for those of you who don't know, because like I started off by doing like short films and stuff like that. So like horror is near and dear to my heart. So once I saw that, but Asgard, just every time I see it, every time I think about it, they're the one affiliation that like Loki just does cool things and he's so fun, and Thor's attacks alone just seem so exciting. So I'm gonna be building probably both of those
Very cool.
affiliations,
Right.
soon enough. But that's one of the things I talked about too this year. It was like tough. Like last year, it was filming on Saturdays, editing on Sundays. Like this year, I hope to get the group of people together that we have, the Discord. So that's the other thing too. If you play Marvel Crisis, Kill Team, any of these games, join the Discord, because if you have any questions, if you want to be a part of what we're doing or just kind of get involved, like that's the way to do it. But we're gonna have more game days this year, where we get to play together. We'll get our group together and we'll have some fun and roll some dice. Where yeah, maybe we'll film some of it, but it's really going to be about hanging out and having a good time. So I'm excited about that. And then the other thing I actually want to mention real quick that I will be working on is there's the Tabletop documentary that I've been shooting for a little while now. So the Battle Standard used to be at its old location. When the new store was opening up, I got footage like before they had anything in there, like before the construction and stuff. So, yeah, so I've got some really cool stuff, but I want to feature some games, some designers. I want to interview some more people, some different game groups and stuff like that too. So, that's kind of another reason why we might not have a weekly release, because I'll be getting footage for that as well. But I did just want to throw that out and mention that. But we'll get back to the Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff now. All right, so you've played a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Are you playing the affiliation that you started with, or did you branch out?
So I haven't branched out too much yet. So I started with Defenders, and I've played Defenders for about 90% of my games. Kind of the list that I like to take, and again, I play mostly casually. I don't soup a ton of stuff to be hyper competitive or anything. So I usually do a list where I can play Defenders or Midnight Suns, depending on like the match that I'm going into. So that's my roster usually. I haven't branched out too much. I own a couple of the X-Men figures. Eventually, I would like to do kind of standard, standard X-Men. I want to get Cyclops as a leader. Like I know that he's not like a really great, like a really great model in the game, but I just like he's one of my favorite X-Men. Like he's so cool, So I was gonna get him and Nightcrawler hopefully. The one big thing that I'm really looking forward to, and I think they're supposed to come out in the next month or two, would be Elsa Bloodstone and Swamp Thing, because like you said, like the monsters.
I didn't even know Swamp Thing was coming out.
Oh, sorry, not Swamp Thing, Man Thing.
Man
Thing.
What?
My bad. Yeah, different. Marvel. Listen, Marvel and DC did that thing where they're just like they're very different, like in the comics, but like they look similar, very similar. But yeah, no. So I think Man Thing, and Elsa Bloodstone are coming out for the Midnight Suns, and I'm so excited for those. Like that's a day one buy. I'm gonna pre-order it and everything. It just like they look so fun. Swamp Thing seems like he's gonna be a beat stick, and Elsa Bloodstone is gonna be a new leader for the Midnight Suns. So I think I'm definitely gonna pivot a bit more to the Suns once they come out. So.
Nice. One of the things that I'm excited about is, for the channel, Iwargame was gracious enough. They sent us the 4 new mats that they came out with. Mm-hmm. We started off, I bought their first mat because when I first got into the game and I started going around, it was like, if you're going to buy a game mat, Iwargame was the mat to buy. We'll be featuring those on the channel, but like I've been really excited about terrain a lot. We're going to be doing a terrain video coming up in the future and stuff. And I just think like, if you have a really nice mat, especially the Iwargame mats are pre-marked, which helps setup and stuff like that. But like, I don't have as much time to play, but one thing that I feel like I can contribute to the cinematography and the editing is like, I paint the terrain, I build the terrain and stuff. So I really want to put like a lot more effort into that stuff, because it's like when I sit back and I watch the videos, like that's kind of like my art to it, I mean, it's the editing and stuff. Like I really enjoy that. So I'm probably going to end up getting all the terrain that they have to offer. I've got multiple packs of some, but we have quite a bit of terrain. So you'll get to see in a future video, we'll talk about some of the things that we like about the terrain, some of the things that we don't, and just kind of go overall. But I think all the terrain that I've seen, not to dive too much into that though, but I think it's cinematic and it fits the world good. My one gripe with terrain in Marvel Crisis still to this day, I guess too, so I brought up the power curve about, how swingy dice can be. I just wish that if you're higher elevated than somebody, like I know line of sight does come into play based on character size. But I think there should be more of a bonus if there's a character that's like on top of a building versus not. And I think that's maybe they'll work that out. Maybe they'll add that into the future. Maybe they won't. I'm sure that there's other things going on. But like when I notice that, I always just see I'm like the high ground should have the advantage, and it just doesn't always.
Yeah, that is one thing that I did kind of feel that was weird, especially coming from like a kill team background, because kill team has vantage points, right? So if you're 2 inches above, you basically get bonuses to shooting, and like the enemies get less cover, you know. And I do think that that's one thing. In this also, like, part of MCP is that it's a bit of an easier game to learn, right? So I think if they were to include extra rules, like extra line of sight rules and vantage points and that kind of stuff, it might complicate it a little bit. But I mean, I think for tournament play it wouldn't matter, but I think as far as like kind of newbies getting into the game for the first time, it might be a bit kind of unwieldy, I guess, to really get into.
No, I guess I like that, because actually kind of what I've noticed is, now that you said that too, like the rules are more stripped down and simple, but you could play a character like Apocalypse where like you're almost adding more rules to the game and expanding if you choose to go down that path. So, okay, you know what? I actually take
I'm not opposed to the idea.
No,
to be fair.
but you're right though. Like honestly, giving people like less stuff to worry about early on and not for nothing, that kind of leads me to the next point I wanted to talk about. I was apprehensive about getting into Warhammer, you know, any of that world, because I've mentioned multiple times, like it's daunting. Like you jump online, you look, it's like, am I going to play Warcry? Am I going to play Necromunda? Am I going to play Kill Team? Am I going to play Fort? Like, there's so much going on, and it's like the game's been out for 30 years, and I just, not that there's not a good entry point, because I think over the last couple of years, I think Leviathan's a perfect way to jump in if you want to play 40K. I don't know if there's a way to turn those pieces into a kill team, but I would imagine there's got to be a way to at least play the game mode through what you get from there if you wanted to try it out.
You can play Combat Patrol, which is the 500-point version of 40K. If we're talking about
Leviathan. Oh, no. So if you bought Leviathan, could you get a kill team out of that to just play the game, or no?
Not presently.
Okay.
No.
Well,
yeah, in the old version of Kill Team, yes, but we could talk about it a little bit when we do a Kill Team video here in a bit. In the current version of Kill Team, no. In the old version of Kill Team, yes, you would have been able to. But
well, so there's a good starting point there, and I feel like even with Kill Team now, you're getting better box sets to be like, okay, here's a good starting point to dive into the game. So,
yes, for sure.
So that's definitely been a big improvement. But what I will say is, like, what I've really enjoyed about Marvel, it let me dip my toe into like this gaming world, because again, like still to this day, I know this isn't true, but in my mind, if I see somebody playing Warhammer, I'm like, they've played for 30 years and they know every rule to the game, right? Like, because it's like their models are usually absolutely beautiful. They've got a lot going on the table, and like I just always assume like I'm going to be outclassed if I sit down. Marvel, dipping my foot in, getting used to the movement, and again, it's not the same thing. I'm not saying it's the same, but like it gets you used to the concept and the ideas. So now the thought of playing Kill Team or diving into something that is way less daunting than it was 6 months ago.
For sure. Yeah, and I think it, like MCP, like I know I said it when we first started this video, but like I genuinely believe that it's probably the perfect starting point. If you're interested in miniature games, and like you even like some of the characters that are in the core box for MCP, I think it's the perfect thing for you to pick up.
Bang for buck, it's just so hard to top that.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like if you split it with a friend, so like for me, I kept the Avengers on my end. I gave the Cabal minis to my friend, my friend Joey, who was in one of your videos, and that was actually his gateway drug to MCP. So I gave him the Cabal, and now he bought like 10 to 15 other minis that he now uses in his games.
Nice.
You know, because he wanted all the bad guys, you know. So it's great for 2 people, but honestly, even for 1 person, I think you would get a lot of mileage out of that core box. And it's the perfect, like, I can't overstate that it is probably the best like starter set that I've seen in all of minigaming.
You open it up, you build it, and you get to play it, and it makes sense, and everything works the way it's supposed to, and that's not for nothing. You know, it's, you had brought up, you almost get enough stuff for 2 people. The only thing that you don't get out of that is you don't basically get the measurement tools and the other set of dice. Correct. But if you need dice, you could always head over to Baron of Dice, because they've got the best custom dice for any game you're ever going to want to play, but including Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Absolutely. And actually, I did bring my Baron of Dice to the MCP tournament that I did.
That's why you won that one game.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Listen, I was rolling. Here's the thing. I'm going to be honest here. Just going back on that, I should have lost that game. I rolled way too hot. I rolled way too hot in the end. I rolled like 4 crits to like win like my game there, which again should not have happened. But It did. So that's how the game works. But yeah, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. So that basically is going to wrap up this video. Again, coming forward in the future. So this is going to be the first video that opens up the new year. You know, we're working on the new studio. There's still some things I have to finish out and do, but we have better lighting. We've got a more open, welcoming area. So we're really going to try to improve, number one, the graphics, the overlay, and the sound design and things like that. So I think you're going to see a lot of improvement on the production side. I think we're going to bring in, again, now adding, you know, Kill Team and Warhammer, Necromunda, some of those things like into the equation, I think is going to help us branch out and pull some more viewers in. And also, if you are a company out there that has a game, whether you're smaller or not, and you want to send it to us to check out, we want to play more games. We'll shoot like little commercials and stuff to send off, so it's not just about us getting it for our channel. Like, we like doing that stuff. So certainly feel free to reach out to us. And then the last thing I want to mention too before we end this video is, if you're not part of our Facebook yet, when I go out, I shoot a lot of pictures too. So you can't really see them on YouTube, but like if you like to see, you know, photos of either the events we've went to, or you just want to see some more like Marvel Crisis stuff, Warhammer stuff, you can see those there. So the Facebook, the Discord, and you're probably watching this on YouTube, so you know.
And I will say for the Facebook too, like, you take a lot of pictures, dude. So like, if you're at a local event and you see Josh there, there's a good chance that your army got photographed at one point or another.
I try, and then if you talk to me and let me know that like you saw him and it meant something to you, and I see you again, I just try to do more and get more pictures.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So is there anything that you want to add into our Marvel Crisis portion of this video, or?
I think other than just to keep playing MCP, it's a great game. They have officially converted me. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about MCP. It's been incredible.
Perfect. Why don't you tell the folks where they can find you and how they can support you, and then why don't you sign us out?
Absolutely. So yeah, if you'd like to see more of me, I have a channel called The BS Crew. It's just youtube.com/@TheBSCrew. And there I talk about comic books, video games. I have a podcast with some friends. Again, I'm planning on making some more videos coming into this year. Hopefully I'm going to be a panelist in a couple conventions coming up, so I'll be able to either live stream and or record those. But yeah, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for another RSMP Tabletop video. Josh, thank you very much for having me on, and we'll see you next time.
Stay safe.